Hey, welcome back, Knicks fans. Wanted to do a quick video today. Wanted to talk about a couple of things. Wanted to talk about the press conference they had yesterday. Quentin Grimes, they made him available to talk to the media, and also I wanted to talk about something that occurred with the Warriors. That's with Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole, his teammate. I wanted to talk about it in terms of it being sort of an issue with like men's sports in general. And before we get into it, if you guys please get a chance, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to talk about these two topics real quick. So first of all, we'll start with the with Quentin Grimes and the interview he gave yesterday. And so with that interview, he basically just ceded, basically ceded the starting position to Evan Fournier. Honestly, obviously, the coach said that Evan Fournier was basically in front of everyone, in front of Grimes and Cam Reddish, that they would have basically have to overtake Evan. They would have to fight for it if they wanted that starting spot. And in the videos, in a couple of videos that I've done, we've talked about it. We went through the stats from last year. If you like, going over it again, if you look at the matchups, I think Evan Fournier, I think outscored his opponents by maybe 33 field goal, made 33 more field goal than his. It was something. He basically won over the course of a season. He won his matchups, and he was. I think he might have been slightly less. He might have been less efficient than his opponent. He was definitely less efficient than his opponent. However, over the course of a year, he basically uh, scored more field goals than his opponents. But then when you look at Quentin Grimes was basically, I think it was over 30. He was outscored by 30 field goal. His opponents made like over 30 more field goals than he did. And then his opponent was far more efficient than he was over the course of the season. And then you look at Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish was actually even, right? I think he was slightly more efficient than his opponent because he held his opponents to about 40% of actually maybe below 40% shooting last year, or around 40% shooting. And then I think Cam, when he was with the Knicks, I think Cam shot maybe like 41% from the field. So he was slightly more efficient. And then when you look at in terms of field goals made, it was about even with Cam Reddish. And so, that was not a surprise, that press conference that he gave yesterday. The only way Grimes is going to even be able to be close to overtaking Evan Fournier is, yes, the defense is good, but Grimes, he's not going to overtake Evan Fournier if he's averaging like 7 points, 8 points a game. And it doesn't even matter if Grimes is like, let's say he's averaging 8 points a game and he's shooting like, let's say, 38, 39% from three. I mean, that's not really going to be enough because he's just not putting up enough shots. Like, if the coach plays Grimes, let's say 22 minutes a game, and he's averaging like 7 or 8 points, that's just not going to be enough to cut it because he's just not putting up enough shots. There's just not enough production there to justify him basically taking over that position, even with the good defense. So a lot of times, like, look, I love defense. I prefer defense over offense. However, you kind of have to look at everything holistically. You have to look at the total production of that player, how efficient they are, and how much they're producing. And then you got to compare it to the other person that you're talking about who's gonna overtake that player. And so it's just not gonna happen. And honestly, you just got to see what Grimes does this year. I mean, Grimes is gonna have to be lighting it up. Like the only way Grimes is gonna overtake Evan is he's gonna have to be close to Evan, where like every other, like let's say every third game or so, Grimes is dropping like 25 points, 20 to 25 points. Now, if he can do that, where like let's say every other game, or maybe like every third or fourth game, he's dropping 20 to 25 points. If he does that and his average comes up to like, let's say 12 points a game or something like that, then okay, then, then you guys may have I mean, then you might see Grimes possibly push for the starting spot sometime this year. But unless that's the issue, unless Grimes get there, like I said, unless he's able to like show that he can fill it up at least like once every 4 games, unless he does that, he's just not even going to be. He's not going to have a shot at starting. He's just not. As long as Evan Fournier is here, honestly, even next year, unless Grimes can show he can fill it up, he's not even going to start the next year if Evan Fournier is here, and he won't even start 2023, 2024 if Evan Fournier is here. He's going to really have to increase the production. It's and look, I know it's like it's different with Obi, right? I know people, like a lot of the uh basically a lot of the debate basically that I had against Obi when I first started talking about Obi, like early, I think I first started talking about like Obi possibly being better than Randall, like December 20, I want to say December, yeah, 2021, like January 2022. And a lot of the, basically a lot of what people would say, they would basically hit me with the argument in terms of production, right? And it was true. But the thing I noticed with Obi that I didn't see with Grimes yet was like, as Obi gets more minutes, he scores more points. But that's not necessarily the same thing with Grimes. Grimes had like, I think I only remember maybe like one game where he dropped like 27 against the Bucks. I'm not sure. I think he may had probably had like one or two other games where he got close to 20, or maybe he was above 20, but it just, he's just not that kind of person. The production isn't there. But with Obi Toppin, you can clearly see when you play him, towards the end of the season last year, I mean, dude was averaging like 20 points a game, the last 10 games, right? And so dropped 36, like, one game towards the end and then 42 on the last game of the season. So, so it's different with Obi. He shows you he can produce when he gets the minutes. Grimes just haven't showed you that. That hasn't showed you that he can give you that production on the offensive end if he gets like 30 minutes a game. And so you can't have him starting doing 30 minutes. You can't have Grimes, someone at the starting two guard, 30 minutes a game and he's averaging like 7 points a game. You just can't do that. That's not going to fly. And so I think that's the issue with Grimes. And so they're definitely going to be patient with him. And so I think the fans just need to be patient with Grimes because this is only his second season. Now, I'm not saying Grimes is not going to be better than Fournier. I think he's got the tools, right? I like he plays really fast. He makes quick decisions. And Fournier is similar in that way too. It makes quick decisions as well. But of course, Grimes is younger, plays better defense. I think as long as if he can start getting close to the offensive production that Fournier has given the team, he's going to overtake him. And I think he's got the tools. I do think Grimes has the ability to possibly make an all-star team, because he's pretty good handling the ball. He can make plays for others. He makes very quick decisions, right? But he's got a long way to go, like I said, because he really needs to the production really needs to increase for that to happen. And so that's pretty much what I have to say about that. And I really do wish Grimes the best, especially with his health. Hopefully, he's able to stay healthy this year. And I really do hope like he proves me wrong and like takes that leap and basically overtakes Evan Fournier before the season is over. I pray that happens because if that happens, I think that the New York Knicks are going to be like honestly, they're going to be in a if Grimes overtake Evan Fournier, that means, like I said, Grimes is dropping like 20 points like every 4 games or so. That means Grimes is a legit ball player, because Fournier on the offensive end he's a pretty legit ball player. The dude can basically, if you focus on Fournier and you got him the ball, I mean, Fournier can average probably 18 points. If he wasn't like fourth option on his team or so, he would average like 18 to 20 points on like, probably 43% shooting or even 44% shooting. So, so Fournier is legit on the offensive end. And so if Grimes overtake him, I swear I'm going to be over the moon. And that means the New York Knicks are going to be in a great position going forward because that means they got RJ Barrett. They got Obi Toppins, who's flashing, and then now they have Grimes already flashing in his second year. I mean, man, I'll tell you what, like if that happens, you don't know how happy I'll be. And so now we're going to basically change topics a bit, and I'm going to talk about what happened with the Warriors, Draymond Green, and Jordan Poole. And the reason why I'm talking about it because I believe that the league, not just the NBA, but I think a lot of the sports league have an issue. All of them, from football to NHL to MLB, all of them have an issue. You know, and it's not big. I'm pretty sure I don't follow any sports league outside of the U.S., but I'm sure this is not just just for men's sports leagues here in the U.S. I wouldn't be shocked if this is an issue across the world. But it's the issue of violence. It's like because these are basically workplace. You know, these guys are getting paid to play basketball or to play sports, and when they go to practice, that's their work. They go to work, right? And so and it baffles me that what happened with the Warriors, right? It's and you know maybe not baffled. What's baffling was basically the organization's focus and a lot of people in the league's focus around what happened. It felt like the focus was more on like there was a lot of talk about the footage being leaked, about how they have somebody leaking footage from internally from within the organization. Honestly, the person who leaked it should be basically, you should label that dude a hero. Like that's crazy. You have somebody, basically Draymond Green went and knocked out Jordan Poole. Draymond Green is, what is he, like 6'9" or something like that, 6'8", 6'9", probably like 250. And on top of that, Draymond Green at this point, he's not even a young man. He's an adult. He's in his 30s. It's like when I was in my 20s, I was, like I think most men in their 20s are idiots, especially early to mid 20s. I think most men are idiots. After like, I want to say 26, I think men start to like kind of get it together a little more. But then by the time you're in your 30s, especially once you hit 30 and then you're married, Draymond Green is a married man. He's a grown man, probably got kids. I don't know anything about Draymond Green, but he probably has kids. Maybe, I don't know. I'm speculating he has kids. I really don't know. But he's married and he's in his 30s. There's no excuse to be basically looking for a fight with somebody who's like 12, maybe 10 to 12 years your junior. That's just insane. Like, no, you don't even like, how could you even like approach someone who you're working with who's that much younger than you are in that manner or that fashion? To me, that's just insane, number one, right? And I don't know why people that see it differently, we just have to see it differently. But number two, like, you're in your 30s and you're doing that, you're assaulting people like at your workplace. It's like this is crazy. Not even at your workplace. Why are you in your 30s assaulting anyone? You know, it just doesn't make any sense, right? And especially given the fact that he wasn't like being assaulted himself or being beaten up. He went up to Jordan Poole, and God knows what they were talking about. There's been a lot of things said now where how basically Draymond, he started it, right? He's the one who started it, was probably cursing at Jordan Poole, probably calling him the B word and whatever else, he wanted to say. And went up to Jordan Poole, basically was all up in Jordan Poole's face. And he was so close, yelling at him, looking, he probably was spitting on Jordan Poole's face. And of course, Jordan Poole, the kid is a man, he's a grown man. He's in his early 20s. So he's not going to let the guy disrespect him like that. That's just crazy. That's bad enough. That's horrendous. You can't have someone just come up to your face, yelling at you, spitting in your. So of course Jordan Poole pushed off, and once he pushed off, Draymond Green basically once backed up, then came back, just kind of like came forward, lunged forward into a punch. It was just vicious. That punch was a very vicious. It was a vicious punch, and it was just it was just unfortunate. It's just really bad, and honestly, Draymond Green, everyone knows he's a hothead. He's always getting into some stuff. He's always getting into scuffles with people, even on the court. Just he's always doing too much, right? And very, and it's like is extremely petulant, immature. Is just extremely catty too. It's like it's either it's reminiscent of a child having to throw a tantrum, or let's just keep it at that, right? A violent child that's throwing a tantrum. And so, but this is a grown big man, who's doing that. And so that's where it becomes dangerous. And so it's really bad. And the thing that was really sad, like I said, is it seems like the organization and even some of the analysts were just concerned about like the video being leaked. And then they're saying, oh, this happens in sports, and they'll get over it, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and that's where I want to talk about it, where it does happen in sports, and and it happens all the time in sports. Because it happens it happens in sports, and generally they accept it, it doesn't mean that it's right. Because if you think about it, some of the examples they bring up, right? Like these situations, some of what they bring up examples where you just have one person who's the aggressor, who actually basically hits another teammate. They always bring up Michael Jordan, right? But then again, it's like, yeah, Michael Jordan was messed up for doing that too. That was a terrible thing to do. And if you think these two guys have something in common, right? If you think about it, Draymond Green runs roughshod over this team. He basically runs this team, says whatever he wants to anybody on the team, um, and nobody ever challenges him. And this organization has allowed him to do that because they feel like he's an important member of the team. And he is an important member of the team. He works well with this team. However, to tell you the truth, is if Draymond Green left the Warriors and went to another team, uh, I'm not even sure if you can even have him in the starting lineup. Maybe you can play him as a small ball five, and that's about it. Um, you know, I'm not sure what other team he will play for as a starter because he would be a liability on the offensive end. He was a liability on offense last year for the Warriors. You know, I mean, honestly, he got exposed when they had all the injuries, when Clay was out, and then it was like the couple of the 2 years where Clay and Steph were injured quite a bit, and it was just Draymond Green. And then actually some of those one of those years, Steph was playing, was healthy for some of the season, and it was him and Draymond, and they couldn't even really do much. They couldn't really get it done either, and so I think Draymond was really exposed during those years, and so he should be thankful and just count his blessings the fact that he's actually on a team where where they're able to maximize his talents. And he's a very talented defender, but and actually on the offensive end, he's a very good playmaker too. So basically, basically a version. He's really a version of of Ben Simmons, but not to the same extent in terms of being a playmaker and not the same kind of ball handling skills. But obviously they're similar in that way. But the difference is, I feel like Draymond Green. It's like I don't think he can really survive on any other team but the Warriors. And so Ben Simmons is better. He's a better playmaker. Uh, at this point, obviously, I think Ben Simmons is going to be a better defender because Ben Simmons is younger. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about their basketball talents. We're here to talk about this workplace violence that occurred, with the Warriors. Now, so let's take this to, you know, okay, going back to the comparison we were making. So people are comparing it to the Jordan situation. You know, the reason why, basically nothing really happened to Jordan back then either was, to tell you the truth, Jordan was, first of all, there wasn't video, number one. And then number two, who's going to reprimand Jordan? Jordan basically, I mean, people feel like he's one of or the greatest player of all time. There are people that feel that way. And because he's that famous and has wielded that much power, you know, he'll feel like he can do whatever he wants, and nobody's going to be able to do much about it. To tell you the truth, that's one of those things that they say absolute power corrupts, right? So the more powerful you are, the harder it is for other people to check you and check your behavior. And so, and in those situations, if you're a bad person and you're not the right kind of person, these things are going to happen. Michael Jordan was playing dead wrong when he punched Steve Kerr in the face. He shouldn't be doing stuff like that. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there in practice, but for you to basically to go from you guys are having words and then you're punching someone, and to the point where the person need to have and where there's physical effects of this violence. I mean, it's crazy. Even if there isn't physical effects of the violence, like a black eye, it's still crazy to take that approach with somebody you work with or with anyone in general in life, especially when you're an adult, right? When you're not even defending yourself or anything like that. So I think it's just a really bad thing. It's really terrible. And I feel like a lot of these sports teams, they just allow it to happen. So now let's take it and compare it to, like, regular Joe, like me and you, right? Yeah, these guys are not regular Joe, but they are in a workplace when these things happen. And you do go to work yourself. So imagine yourself, you're at work. It doesn't matter. You could be the CEO, the most talented guy. You like, let's say you're a very skilled person, right? Let's say one of the smartest programmers in the world, and you started a company, and there, you work with other, like, brilliant programmers, right? And you guys are working for a company you guys own a company that's worth billions of dollars, right? I think that's probably a little similar, right? If you're in the workplace, you guys have a disagreement, right? Um, do you think you'll be able to punch one of your coworkers, or even, let's say, one of your partners in the face and get away with it? What do you think will happen if you assaulted either one of your partners or coworkers in the workplace? Obviously, police are going to be called. You're going to be in handcuffs, right? And you're going to be fired from that job. Even if you're a partner or part owner, they're going to remove you from your position, especially if there's a board. As long as there's a board, there's going to be a board meeting, and they're going to remove you as CEO or whatever position you have on in the organization. They're going to even probably consider trying to find a way to buy you out and to remove you totally from the organization as a result of what you've done. And so, so that's pretty much what happens in real life. And let's not pretend like, these guys are not operating in real life, because there are real consequences to what has happened. Jordan Poole was just plainly assaulted by another man, right? And it's crazy, no charges. I wonder if even police even contacted Jordan Poole to see if, like, he wanted to file charges. They probably didn't, because everybody was like, oh, well, the sports team, men, it's like boys will be boys, but they're not. They're grown men. So they should not be assaulting each other in that manner, right? And so, but you got to think about what the repercussions are. Like, people have said, look, I think even Draymond said it in the press conference. Jordan Poole's family sees this. Jordan Poole's very close friends sees this. All of Jordan Poole's friends sees this. Everyone in this kid's life is going to have to keep seeing this and reliving this, and they're going to have to feel extremely crappy about this for a very long time. And only God knows how long they're going to, if they're ever going to, like, live this down, because this is something that's happening very publicly, and it was extremely violent. It was a very violent looking video. And so, so it's just really messed up. And so you got to deal with that, right? And so, and then to make even matters worse, I was just watching a video where apparently Draymond Green's mother responded to somebody tweeting, somebody on social media, basically defending his son, and that basically essentially that um, it was like man to man, and Jordan Poole pushed him, and so Draymond just basically hit him, and that there was nothing wrong. It was just Jordan Poole just had his hands down, and so it's crazy and it's unfortunate, and it's crazy. And the thing that's crazy, it's, man, it shows a lot. It definitely shows a lot about Draymond, where he gets his attitude from and his behavior. You know how they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. We're not talking about Draymond's dad, but the apple doesn't fall from the tree, and the and this tree we're talking about is the mom. And so, it was really unfortunate, her response to it. Even if you believed your son didn't do anything wrong, in this situation, you would think you just keep it quiet, just like you don't have to say anything, you know. But the fact that she felt that she can, like, even get on social media after her son assaulted someone, you know, and like essentially, and it's me and it's public and everyone is seeing it, and for her to come back with that response is just like, it's just unbelievable, right? It's really unbelievable, and it's unfortunate. And so it kind of reminded me even last year when when you see that stuff, right? Like, for example, last year, when what do you call it? Guy on our team, Julius Randle, when he had the incident, there was some yelling back and forth with, like, a video guy, one of the assistant coaches, and he basically the laptop out of the guy's hands. I mean, like, to me, that was crazy. That was crazy enough. Extremely disrespectful. And so, but I'm just, it's just it's surprising to me that today's day and age is like something that it feels like men's sports is not even trying to or sees any need to address. Like violence in the workplace is like, to me, is just crazy to me. I mean, and I think people think that, oh, it's okay, right? And this is why these teams are the way they are. They're that good because, so you're telling me the Warriors are that edgy and that good because like the edgy teams are violent and they're going around punching each other during practice and that's why they're good? That's nonsense. That's not true. You know, I can think about the New York Knicks, the ones that won the two championships back in the '60s, '70s. Um, are you telling me that team like I don't know if there was anybody on that team that would do anything like that. You look at all the great teams. Do you think that the Boston Celtics, right? Those Celtics teams, do you think they were basically hitting each other in practice? They were punching each other's lights out, Robert Parrish or McHale or Bird. That's what they were doing. And those guys are some of the toughest guys. I mean, like those Celtics teams from the '80s. I mean, these were they were some of the most curmudgeon young people you've ever met. They were like just like gritty, mean, They were just mean, extremely competitive, and they were stacked. And so, were you telling me that team they were that good because they were going around punching each other in practice? Of course not. They weren't punching each other in practice. That was just freaking crazy. That stuff wasn't happening in practice with those teams. You look at a lot of teams that that have won a lot of championships. Those things weren't going down. You look at those Lakers teams with Shaq and Kobe. Both of them ridiculously competitive. Kobe wasn't walking around. He wasn't punching teammates, especially ones like 10 years his junior. Shaq definitely wasn't doing that, you know. So it's just unbelievable. I don't, I'm not going to accept that that's what people do. That's what championship teams do. You keep going back. The Warriors, obviously, apparently this is par for the course for them because they were more concerned about the videos being leaked. So I guess maybe they're more used to Draymond. They're used to Draymond basically, ruling with an iron fist on that team. So I'm wondering, did he hit anyone else on that team? Has he assaulted anyone else, like pushing people? And so maybe it happens with the Warriors, but that doesn't mean that's not part of the formula. That's not a factor when you're talking about trying to determine what helps you win championship. That's not it. That's just not it. You think about the LeBron teams that won championship. Do you think that's what they were doing? LeBron was running around punching teammates, you know, and LeBron is like extremely competitive, probably one of the finest physical specimen you'll ever see in terms of strength, speed, agility, size, everything. He could have easily been that kind of person. He could easily be like he ran this league. Basically LeBron essentially ruled this league for God knows what is it like. It's been almost 2 decades now, basically 2 decades, you know, and during that whole time, you never heard anything about LeBron going around socking people in the face. Just think of any team, the Dallas Mavericks teams with Luca, not with Luca, with Dirk and Jason Kidd. Is that what they were doing? They weren't doing none of that. Or the Spurs team. The Spurs team, they were running around punching each other in the face. No. So that's not, this isn't like, a factor. This isn't one of the reasons. This is not one of the ingredients that help make good teams or even great teams. It just doesn't work that way, you know. If anything, it's a hindrance, right? If you do things like that, it doesn't help the team chemistry. You're actually destroying the team chemistry when you do things like this. And so I really feel like this is something like men's sports, like a lot of these sports teams need to address, a lot of these leagues. And I'm really surprised NBA even haven't even come out as I don't know if NBA have made a statement on this. They haven't been out publicly on this. And the NBA is like really one of the, and there's some things I really don't like about the NBA. And basketball is my favorite sport. So I love these players. I love watching the NBA game. But the league as a whole, it's a Weasley weird league sometimes. I mean, people get blackballed in this league for no dang reason. It's like, and people talk about. I know like the most recent one was like uh, is with Jeremy Lin, and Jeremy Lin was saying he thinks one of the reasons he wasn't originally given a shot because he was Asian, right? And then not just that, recently Jeremy Lin has not been able to play on any teams, um, and and he feels like his heritage, his who he is, his ethnicity and race plays a role. Look, given it's the NBA and it's a sports league, like I'm not gonna discount that and say no. Honestly, Jeremy Lin is a good basketball player. I mean, he's not a great defender, and he has an issue. He has some issues turning over the ball, and he's injury prone. And those could be like reasons to basically for people to say no. But honestly, there's no reason why Jeremy should not be in the NBA, in my opinion. There's a lot of crappy players in the NBA. Jeremy Lin is basically better than a lot of these guards in the NBA. But the whole point I'm just trying to make is like the NBA is like really weird like that. They blackball people for like, and it's like and we won't know why. It's just something like as long as if you it's like this weird club. If they don't like you, right? Then you're not going to play in their club, and that's just how they are. Remember the Muslim player? I think it was Chris Smith, and then he changed his name up to Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. I think I can't remember Raul. I can't remember his Muslim name, and I apologize for that. I'm not trying to disrespect the man or butcher his name. I just can't remember exactly how to pronounce it. Chris Jackson, actually. I think it was Chris Jackson. And he was banned from the league. He was like basically they blackballed him. He went from being one of the best players, young players in the league, to like is, and I think it started with the Denver Nuggets with the team that he played for. They basically undermined him they really undermined him, like really played him, and then it got to the point where he had to leave the league, because of the way he was being treated. So that was when I remember the Greg Hodges one. Remember, Greg Hodges' story, and that part of that reason, like, was I think there was a story about him going to the White House and wanting to wear, I guess, African dashiki, it's like African clothing, and to think that wearing African clothing to the White House is something like was something controversial to the point where they were so afraid that he was going to wear African clothing to the White House. It kind of represents a little more about where this country was at and how they feel and what they see about Black people. And this was the NBA that basically lost their mind over it. And the dude basically was out of the league after that season. He was the reigning 3-point champion and couldn't find work in the NBA. To me, it was just absurd. So there's always weird stuff like this that happens in the NBA. They're constantly blackballing players, and and it's just it's a very weird league. It's very interesting, and they just have a lot of issues about this league that I don't like. They do a lot of things I don't like, and it's my favorite sports too. And it's really unfortunate, and I hope a lot of this stuff change. But going back to what we originally were talking about, the violence that's happening in like let's say in practice or on these teams facility. I mean, they need to take care of this stuff. If I was a player, I don't even know why these players that are getting assaulted. If I was a player, like honestly, I'll file charges. you know, I would definitely file charges. But then again, you might get blackballed from the league if you file charges because obviously they're endorsing these kind of behavior. The NBA is endorsing this kind of behavior because the fact that they don't speak up on it, because they don't speak up on it, they're definitely endorsing this kind of behavior. They are endorsing it because they don't want to speak up on it. They just want to let it go. As long as they're making money and if they feel like their fans don't care or their fans aren't going to make waves about it, they're going to let it happen. And so, but I really hope a lot of these sports league, I hope they wake up, but they're not going to wake up until some of these players start basically start pressing charges, you know. Like I said, if this was in real life and I was at work and I was assaulted by someone, I'm calling the cops. I don't care if it's it could be a coworker, it can be the CEO of the organization. I'm calling the police, and that person is going to handcuffs. You know, And like that's just what's gonna happen. It doesn't matter, if I know how to fight or how big I am. I'm a grown man. I was like, I don't have to do that. That's why you pay damn taxes. You pay taxes. So when you have issues, you call the damn police, you know? So you don't need to do all that. None of that stuff is necessary. I'm not saying you can't defend yourself. You should always try to defend yourself. Don't just stand there, unless somebody hurt you. However, if somebody sucker punched me or something like that happened, and you couldn't, you were in a situation where you couldn't really react or do anything about it. You got to make sure you press charges, and that's the only way this stuff changes. If there's right now, there's no consequences for violence, you know, in these sports teams. There isn't any. Once there starts being like real consequences where we're starting to see criminal charges, then I think you're going to see things change because like I said, you don't need that. You don't need that to have a competitive team. That's just not it. You know, honestly, there are situations where let me say something else though. This is different from a situation where let's say two players are going back and forth, right? And they don't like each other, and then basically they get into a scuffle. That's one thing, right? But this is this is different. When it's like totally one sided, you have one person who's a bully who starts it and does the assaulting. I mean, you cannot allow that to happen. You shouldn't be letting your teammates fight either. But however, this one is egregious. You cannot have these things like that happen. This type of stuff happen. So I'm not trying to say there, this is, all the fights are like this. They're not all like this. I would say 99% of the fights that happen are basically two teammates, they're going back and forth, and it's like they shoot a fair one. That happens, and those situations, like it's not good. You don't want to encourage it, and that should not be happening. But this one is the problem, where these like when you have situations, you have the players that they feel like they cannot be checked, right? That they feel like they have absolute power on the teams that they're on. They engage in this kind of behavior. That's why you see Draymond did what he did, and that's why Michael Jordan did what he did. Honestly, that's why Julius Randle last year he felt that it was okay to slap a computer out of out of a staff member's hands last year, because if you've looked at it, Julius Randle last year, there was nobody was checking him. Julius Randle did whatever he wanted to do last year. He turned over the ball and just walked up the court and let his man, run the other way and score without even hustling back. He did that constantly. There were so many other things, so many other examples you can give to show that Julius Randle was basically in a similar situation. But luckily, Julius Randle did not basically assault or punch anyone. Like Julius Randle, he's a strong dude, and God forbid he does that. And so that's pretty much what I have, guys. Please let me know what you can think. Please like and subscribe the video. Thank you.